guys, welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs. Welcome back to another First Division review show with 4 games over Friday. Not too many goals, surprisingly. Usually the First Division provides a lot of goals, but delighted to welcome Keith Ryan and Gavin Woods back on. Guys, how are you doing?
Hi, Keith. Hi, Keith.
How are you? You well?
Hi, Keith. It's very easy to do that, isn't it? Keith and Keith. We'll start off in Athlone. We're finished Athlone 1, Bray 1. Curtis Byrne scored after 10 minutes and Alua scored on 57, which, to be fair, he had a lot of work to do and he took it away brilliantly. We were saying, obviously, Keith, in the preview that Athlone hadn't got a point yet, and you know yourself, like, they're not going to go too many more games without any points. And I did go for Bray to win it. Something in the back of my head was saying, Keith, this is going to be a draw, and it was a draw. So how did you see it overall?
I knew this was going to happen. I just knew it. I knew Athlone were going to get off the mark against Bray. It was just, you just had that feeling, you know, like, why your club? You know, why does it happen to you? You know, but in terms of the game, I said it in my review on Friday. It was a game of two halves. Bray dominated the first half and probably should have been 2 or 3 up. Callum Thompson and Paul Fox were excellent on the wing. And obviously Curtis scored inside 15 minutes. You know, it was a goal where Athlone, now all night, in fairness to them, they were playing out from the back, and Michal Schlingerman played the ball into the midfield, and Carl Manahan intercepted it, headed it to Curtis Byrne, and he put it by him. But you know, Rob Manley won't be happy with the chance he missed. It was about 10 minutes later, could have put Bray 2 up, and then there was a couple of ifs and buts. But yeah, it was disappointing. Hugh Douglas going off late in the first half, and that unsettled Bray a little bit. And you could visibly see the organisation wasn't there in the second half and in the back line, and Athlone deservedly equalised and probably should have won the game.
Did Athlone go 2 up top as well, actually, around that point?
Yeah, and it was Zainu. Yeah. And they caused Bray problems in the second 45. Callan and Hudson, they just didn't click. They didn't seem to click, and it was a handy goal for Luwu. Just a straightforward ball through the midfield, and it was played through. He bet Callan for pace, and there was 1-1. And again, it was Zainu again causing threat. He seemed to lead the line, and he had balls played down the sides of the centre halves, which caused him problems as well. So. Look, it's a disappointing result for Bray, and the management won't be happy with that. We were good on the road before that, but it's now 7 points instead of 9.
Yeah, I mean, Gavin, we spoke actually on the preview show about Bray Wanderers and how, like, now they've only scored 5 goals this season thanks to that goal the other night. And as Keith said there, they probably should have been, say, 2 or 3 up. And that's obviously a problem with them. They're not clinical enough. They're not taking their chances when they're on top. It's something they have to change. You'd like to think the likes of Rob Manley would score more goals as well, to be honest. So, yeah, it's something that Bray obviously have to work on a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose, like, it's when you're looking at things like that, if they're not scoring enough goals, there's obviously, you know, they might need to change a formation or something like that. Maybe, you know, it depends on what sort of players they have or what sort of squad they have, that they could, you know, maybe change a formation and try and attack more or something, or go with a 4-3-3 and try and press further up the pitch. I saw the goal. There was a great goal by Curtis Byrne there. His goal was a great finish. But yeah, it's like, you know, when that's happening, you're going to look back in analysis and see, you know, why aren't we creating more opportunities or taking their chances? So maybe they just need to push further up the pitch. Maybe they're defending too high. I don't know. Keith will be able to say that, you know. Maybe they're just too far, but, you know.
Yeah, how do you see that, Keith, actually?
See, the weird thing, and Gavin mentioned the change of formation and stuff. As I said, we were on top first half, and Thompson was on the right hand side, Paul Fox was on the left. And for the second half, he switched it. The management team switched it, and Paul Fox was then on the right, Thompson on the left, and it didn't seem to work as well as it did first half. So why it was switched after they were dominating? Callum Thompson was given, I'm not sure who was playing left back for Athlone, who was giving him a nightmare, and his final ball wasn't great, but Gavin Hugh Douglas going off was a crucial part of the game. Like, I know he'd had everything for you, so it was disappointing when he went off.
How bad is his injury? Sorry. How bad is his injury, though?
He received 7 or 8 stitches, I believe. But I seen him the next day in Bray, and he was walking fine, but he had to be helped off the pitch, and it was held up for a couple of minutes. So look, hopefully he's back for Friday, because he is a crucial part of our team.
Just out of curiosity, the fella that was playing, you said left back for Athlone, you were saying they shouldn't have changed it. He wasn't a right-footed left back, was he?
Not sure. I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
That fella they had a right-footed left back against City the week before in Turner's Cross, and I'd say, he kind of got a bit, he got a bit of a roasting in and out. So, you'd be kind of wondering if the same fella's confidence wasn't great, why Bray changed it up,
According to Flashscore, his name was Van Geen, and I don't know if it's him or not. I think he played centre half. So yeah.
It's strange, actually, though, to be honest, I was listening to you when you were talking about that. It is strange when you're, a player usually has a beating of a player, a winger, classic example, with a fullback. Like, you have that confidence, your confidence is high and it's up and all as well. And if you get changed to the other wing, I'll be talking from experience, obviously, at a lower level as well. But you're kind of a bit like, I had the beating of that fella or whatever. Now I'm getting changed here, and why? And it just kind of sets you back a little bit. So, as Keith said, it's actually a bit strange to do that when something is technically working. Like, even if Thompson's final balls, you say, wasn't great, that's not really the point. If he has the beating of the player, keep going.
At any level, Keith, it doesn't matter what level you're playing at. That's a confidence thing with a winger. Like, if he's beating a full back all the time, it doesn't matter if you're playing junior football, you're playing the Premier League. I mean, if your confidence is good and you're beating a full back, you don't change that. Usually. Well, so.
Yeah, no, it's a strange call, all right, but it's a point piece here at Athlone. The finished Galway United 1, Cove Ramblers 0, Broader with the goal, and Galway just on the coattails of Cork, and obviously we'll talk about Cork soon, but they're only 2 points behind Cork, Keith, with a game in hand, and again, 1 goal was enough in this game. Not really scoring goals, as we said. Strikers aren't really scoring goals, even though they've got good strikers at the club. I've mentioned that before as well, but at the same time, after losing the other week, they'll be delighted just to get the 3 points, won't they?
And as you said, they stay in the coattails of Cork City, and I think they need to, because Cork are obviously flying. They got a good results expected, but we mention it every week, don't we? It was a typical John Caulfield result. 1-0. He'd be absolutely delighted. He'd be absolutely thrilled with that result. 3 points in the bag, 3 points behind Cork City, and they have a game in hand. So, they scored 12 goals. Obviously not as much as Cork City, but the goals for the strikers do seem to have dried up a little bit. Where it was in Scorsese earlier on in the season, Stephen Walsh has reverted to left back. So, but John Caulfield won't be disappointed with that result. He take a hand off all day long for that.
No, absolutely. I mean, Gavin, Galway. The funny thing with Galway is here, Gavin. They're, as I said, they're on Cork's coattails as well, but nobody's really talking about them because their wins are generally not of the impressive variety, let's say. But they're still in there, and John Caulfield will enjoy not being talked about, won't he?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially if Conor McCormack is playing every week, he'll set it up like he did with City, just to break teams down, and when they score, just to soak up the pressure. So, if he won every game, every week 1-0, John Caulfield is happy with that. He doesn't look at it from a point of view. Obviously, scoring goals is great for any team, but it's 1-0 at home, happy days, and once he can stay behind Cork City, and he'll obviously be gunning for City, he'd be thrilled with the 3 points there.
Yeah, see, winning like that as well, it kind of keeps the limelight off you a little bit as well. I think that's the major thing there. But regarding Cove, I suppose, Gavin, it's got a bit like Bray. They've scored 5 goals this season. They're second bottom with 4 points, but they've only conceded 9 goals, so they have a solid foundation there. They're losing a lot of games tight, but as I said before, they're very hard to beat. But it's a strange one. They'd be happy enough with how they're doing, but they just need a bit more going forward, don't they?
Yeah, and I suppose, look, he Darren Murphy brought in a couple of lads from City. So, like, I suppose, like anything, there was probably 5 or 6 in, 5 or 6 out. So it's just probably taking them a bit of time to get a team settled and gel together. Because the fellas he brought in from City aren't bad players. They were on the fringes last year was, but like with City, but the fellas he brought in are good enough for that level, and especially with Benny and O'Brien with Marsh. Maybe he's just not getting the supply that he'd be hoping to get, because I mean he's a clinical finisher. So as you said, they're solid at the back, and if they're only scoring 5 goals, then there's obviously an issue with getting the ball up to him, because I mean I've no doubt about it. With him, once he gets a sniff on goal, he'll score for you.
Yeah, Keith. I mean, they have Hegarty and the likes of Droyne in there as well, but there's not an awful lot of goals coming from the midfield positions either. So I think generally it's probably a bit of a creation of opportunities in the Cove team. They obviously got 3 goals. Was it 3 goals against Athlone, a 3-2 win? Is that right? So that means 3 goals were scored in 1 match as well. So, it's something that if they do want to get up the table and just kind of, get that final piece in their jigsaw, I guess, they definitely need to be hitting the back of the net more, don't they?
Yeah, and as I said, they seem to be kind of solid enough, because they're not being beaten by massive scorelines, but it's the cliche, you have to score goals to win games, so putting the ball in the net. And as Gavin said, Whitmarsh, O'Brien Whitmarsh, he's a good player, but he just seems he has to get that kind of people putting the ball in the box for him to get on the end of chances, and if that happens, Cove would be hoping he can put the ball in the net. But if he's not getting the ball into the general area for him, they're not going to score goals. So they'll only stay down near the bottom if they don't score goals. Obviously, it's I'm sure Cove would be happy with a 1-0 win like Galway got. But it just doesn't seem to be happening with them apart from the Athlone game.
Yeah, absolutely. Finished Waterford 1, Longford Town 1, and this was a very dangerous game, Keith, for Waterford. We called it as well, but that equaliser from Britain in the 90th minute could be crucial. I mean, if they'd lost this game after Elworthy gave Longford the lead, that was 3 defeats rather on the bounce. And even now, looking at the table quickly, they are 8 points behind Cork. I know they have a game in hand, but there's no guarantee that you win that game in hand. And they're 5 points behind Galway with no game in hand. They can't afford to go too far behind them too, because it's very hard to catch one team. It's very difficult to catch 2 teams. But that late equaliser, it'll be interesting to see if that galvanises them in the next few weeks. It could be important, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't want to be going too many games without a win or without a point. I know. I listened to Sean Mean's review, and he didn't seem happy with Morris. I haven't seen the highlights of this game. I've just seen the goal. But I was looking at the scorelines on Friday, and at one stage, Bray were level on points at Waterford. I was like, Jesus, you didn't expect that. But Gary Cronin won't be happy conceding in the last minute. They seem to have the 3 points. They were on the road back to Longford with 3 points, and he would have been delighted. I don't know. Waterford are strange. They're really strange, and I think, as Gavin said, with Bray kind of changing up the formation, maybe Morris has to do something, because the Waterford fans, as you said last week, they're going to get itchy, and they're not going to be happy with where they are at the moment. Yeah,
Gavin, I think Waterford have a set of players there, for a large majority of players, that if they're not happy with the style of managers playing, I won't say they throw them under the bus, but they're not a type of team that are going to come together and really have a strong dressing room and galvanise. Like they always need, the manager to essentially do all the work for them in many ways. And Morris has proved it, that he's done a good job at Shelbourne in the last couple of years, and that, and winning first division titles. And defensively they're not very strong either. But what do you think the problems are there with them? Do you think Morris might be under a bit of pressure if these results continue, especially at Waterford, because they're a bit trigger happy,
Yeah, definitely down there anyway. And I suppose, look, Sean obviously knows better than anybody, doing the reviews and being at all the matches and knowing what's going on behind the scenes. But if they're like at the start, as we were all saying, that you were saying that they'd probably be favourites to win the league, and then all of a sudden it looks like they're 8 points behind. There's obviously issues going on behind the scenes, and like I said as well, when they played us in the Cross, they had an Egyptian fella in midfield who was very good, technically very good, and Ian Morris took him off, I don't know, maybe 60, 70 minutes into the game. Sean can clarify that, but he wasn't a bit happy coming off. And, when that's happening, you know there's something going on behind the scenes. You can't have that sort of thing going on in your team where you're kind of going, oh, I don't want to come off, like just give another fella an opportunity. So, there could be a bit of bitching and moaning going on behind the scenes, and obviously it's affecting the team on the pitch. So, and as you said, if they're trigger happy down there and they're looking at Ian Morrison, the expectations will be to win the league, especially for the job that he done with Shelbourne. So, and if things don't go his way, maybe they'll look at it and think that he's the issue as opposed to the players. But I mean, the players have to look at themselves as well, and up their game too.
I think so. So I think they're a little bit top heavy and they're lacking a little bit at the back. I think that's an issue as well. I mean, they've got 5 or 6 players in attack that are kind of interchangeable in a way and are very good individually, but it's all a bit top heavy, and at the back they're not that strong, Keith. I honestly think if they'd lost this game, Keith, I think Morris was in trouble, honestly.
The thing is, Waterford would probably like some of Longford's back four, and Longford would probably like some of Waterford's attacking players. It's a bit like that. For the goal, the goal was a silly goal to get away for in Waterford's point of view. Graydon was played in, probably should have scored, hit the bar, ball came back out, they had a chance to clear, and then Elworthy, who made the run initially, ended up in the box and putting the ball into the net. So, the Waterford, they seem to be trigger happy. They have been a couple of seasons running. So, would Morris have survived another loss? I don't know. I wouldn't like to call it, but
no, but you're looking at it. I wouldn't even say he deserves to go, by the way, but I'm looking at it from the way Waterford, their point of view and what they're like. You know what I mean? I mean, how many managers have Waterford had in the last 3 years? I'd say 6 or 7 easily in the last 3 years, which is mental, including caretaker, but even so 6 or 7 managers, and it doesn't take much. And the problem, what happens there is as well, because some of the players are still there actually as well, some of them, is that they know what's going to happen. So it becomes almost like, a few results are bad here. Sure, the manager's going to go now. That's what happens. It becomes a structure, or almost, it just becomes... Yeah, it becomes something that happens within the club. The culture becomes the culture, basically, was the word I was looking for. That's what it becomes. And you just worry with Waterford that that's still there in the background. And it's just a concern for them. But as for Longford, as Keith was saying, they'll actually be disappointed they didn't get the 3 points. They've been doing quite well. They've only conceded 4 goals. I think Keith alluded to their defence there. And that's a trade of Gary Cronin, as Keith said before. He's similar to Caulfield. He likes to set up his defences very, very well. And I suppose he's certainly done that, Keith. And to be honest, you'd be more, I don't know, impressed with Longford at this minute in time than Waterford, even though they're behind the table, wouldn't you?
Well, look, Longford, they have 2 games in hand. Remember, their first game of the season was postponed. So they're probably a bit like Galway. They're happy not to be noticed, and they're happy not to be, they bet was Galway the week previous as well. So, they're putting it up. They've
drawn with Cork City, Keith, as well. They've drawn with Cork.
They're putting it up to the big sides. They're putting it up to the big sides. We know they had a bit of a blip against ourselves. But if Gary's getting 1-0, he'd be delighted as well. He's an ex-defender. He's happy enough to set his team up to not concede and then maybe hit teams on the break. I know we've done that a lot with Bray last season and the season before. So and with Graydon, they had that bit of a pace on the wing as well. So it looked like Graydon played up front on Friday night as well. So he can kind of interchange as well. Absolutely. And he can play up top, and he can play well up top. So look, anyone, and Gavin will say the same, you're disappointed. You're disappointed going home with a draw if you're 1-0 up in the 92nd minute.
Yeah, regardless of the game as well, even if you were completely battered for the 90 minutes. But so finished Wexford 0, Cork City 1 at Carrick Park. Keane Murphy with the winner after 5 minutes. Gavin, you made the trip up to Wexford for this one. good day out for a start?
Yeah, actually it was, to be fair. And as I said, it was my first time travelling to Wexford, first time in Ferrycarrig Park. So it was actually a very enjoyable drive. You know, as I said about the place, and I done in my review, a lovely ground and well set up, and you know, very welcoming people there. So it was you know, before the game even started, I was very impressed with the club itself. So, you know, big shout out to the club there, in fairness to them, you know.
Was it cold?
Sorry?
Was it cold?
It actually wasn't, believe it or not. It actually wasn't.
Freezing there.
No, do you know what? Believe it or not.
Keith must be at the Carlisle grounds. It's always freezing there, for God's sake.
No, it actually, strangely enough, it wasn't, because like that, I brought a load of clothes with me, and I'll be freezing later on, but it actually wasn't too bad that night, so it was all right, you know. It actually was fine there, you know.
It was a good result, though, wasn't it, Gavin, for Cork Seed?
Yeah.
Come away with another win, another clean sheet. They've only conceded 2 this season, 3 clear Galway, and 8 clear of Waterford at the moment. But this was a real game where you felt, I think, Cork grinded out the results, and from that point of view, it's satisfactory, because I've said it before, they're not going to be winning 3-4-0 every week.
Yeah, and especially like that, like after Cian Murphy scoring after 5 minutes. And, you know, like I said afterwards with Colin Healy, I think he'll look at that game afterwards and go, that was probably, in terms of a team performance and working together, and like we say, you know, as a structure as a team, and defending and attacking at the same time, I think he'll be a lot more happy than that than he was the previous week against Athlone, because, you know, look, as I said, it's the same cliche that we said about wingers having confidence, but it's the same at any level. When you're 3 up early in games, you're gonna get complacent in games. So at least the other day against Wexford, when they scored early, they had to be switched on for the whole game, because Wexford caused them a lot of trouble and they put a lot of ball into the box. So I think they'll come away from that afterwards probably as happy with that 1-0 as they would with a 3 or 4-0 win, because he look at it and say that they were resolute in the match, and that they can go away like that and hold out for the next 85 minutes without conceding. And like, the strange thing about it, actually, like the thing about this season compared to last year, I think, like, if that was the same situation last year, I wouldn't have fancied them. You know, they would have conceded at some stage, but they just have that. They have that backbone or that spine in the team this year that just seems to be working out well. Like I was talking about it the other day. I was saying like that, you know, when they're defending, Bolger drops in kind of like a 5 as such into the back, and then like that allows Coffey to drop into the centre midfield then, and that Rory Keaton drops back in then again. So they're defending like that and leaving Cian Murphy up on his own. And then when they're attacking, you know, the wing backs are getting up because they're playing with 3 centre halves this year, and Bolger plays in front of the 3. So like when they're attacking Bargery, and like the other day it was Coates, he's a guy they got from Stoke, and that's like I think a lot of their game this year, what I've noticed is their fitness, Keith. They seem to be extremely fit this year, and especially like anybody that knows anything about, you know, football in general, if you're playing that system with a 3-5-2, you're playing with wing backs. The wing backs have to be tuned in for a start, and they have to be fit.
You have to be athletic and fit.
Yeah, you have to be athletic. You have to be up and down constantly, because that's why I picked out Gilchrist for his performance. And like as you rightly said about him, you know, you said before to me that he was a good player, and I didn't see much of him, but he was outstanding the other day. But Cian Bargery on the wing was exactly what they needed the other night. They needed an outlet when Wexford were pressing, and like David Harrington was getting the ball and he was sending it directly out to Bargery, and Bargery was just getting the ball and running, and he was giving him that extra 10 or 15 yards to get City back up the pitch again, you know, just to give him that breathing space when the pressure was against him, and he was either winning a throw or winning a free kick, or just giving him that extra bit of time. Because in fairness to Wexford, they put City under a lot of pressure the other night, and you know, that's what impressed me a lot then about Cork City tonight, was that they were able to deal with the pressure, you know, and get the result out of the game.
Yeah, Keith, I suppose from Wexford's point of view, they'd be happy enough with that performance, actually. You think going to go down the way Cork are at the moment after 5 minutes, that, look, they're going to win 3 or 4 again. But look, they did create chances in the game. They did keep Cork out. So it's a lot Wexford can take from the game themselves, isn't there?
Yeah. And the only disappointing thing that from their point of view is that's 3 goals now, or 3 games without a goal for Wexford. So you know, you were expecting with Dinny Corcoran coming in at the start of the season that Wexford, the firepower up top, and you obviously have Aaron Dowles playing off and Connor Davis and the other side. I know Gavin said Connor Davis had a relatively good game for Wexford, and it looked like they did have a few chances. Now, they didn't seem to be very clear-cut chances, but nonetheless, they'll be disappointed that they didn't take one of them. And it was the same earlier on the season against Waterford when they had numerous chances, just didn't take them. So there seems to be a few teams in the league that are creating the chances, but they're not actually putting the ball into the net. And it's obviously not helping those teams, the likes of Wexford's Coves, Bray, for instance. But just going back on Gavin, Colin Healy, absolutely delighted that he'll see that result as probably their best result of the season, given that they won 1-0 and they ground that result out. Forget your 4-5-0s, you know, you don't learn anything from those games. You learn something from the 1-0s, and what a result. Tough pitch to go to as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, guys, thanks very much for coming on. Fair play to you. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, lads. Hit your bell notification button. And thanks again.